Welcome, we back. Them Brothers from Inglewood podcast. I'm in the studio with a great friend and a notable basketball player. I want to shout out to Charley Mack. He's not in the studio today, but we'll be expecting him back shortly. This is another episode that I really believe you will find interesting, and also you'll be able to kind of put the pieces together about things that you've heard, especially about Los Angeles hoops or Southern California basketball. And I want to say thanks to the Coalesce Group for being our sponsor and sharing valuable information and being an impact in our youth community, especially pertaining to academics. Thank you for all the resources that you have provided at this point. I'm just going to jump right in, and I want to say welcome Derick Huey into the studio today, and I'm gonna let him introduce himself, and then we're just gonna, we're gonna throw around some topics and some information that I really believe that you're gonna it's gonna benefit you well. So, Derick, tell the people who you are, man.
Derick Huey, aka Buckets. I got so many other, so many nicknames that go around, but I was known as Buckets back in the day.
Yeah.
And shout out for Who for having me on this podcast this morning. This afternoon.
Yeah, that's what's up. I'm just gonna, and this is really information for you young players that are aspiring, those that really have become students of the game. I think you need to know the history of Los Angeles basketball, as well as the city that we represent, which is Inglewood. That's where we were educated, and that's what we developed as young players. The city of Inglewood, we have so many notable guys who have come out of the city, but this particular person that's in the studio today, we call him DH as well, because he impacted the game at a time where we really saw scoring at its purest form. And there were great scorers before our era, which we got a chance to see, like Freeman Williams, the late Dane Suttle, Jason Works, rest in peace, Casper Ware. So, I mean, these are some legends that we watched growing up. But, let's just kind of go back a little bit. When did you start playing basketball?
I started playing basketball, man, at Rogers Park in Inglewood. Shout out to Rogers Park.
Yeah.
I started playing ball in, I want to say 82, 83. The LA Lakers used to practice up at Rogers Park.
Yeah.
And they used to, just move everybody out so they can practice. And one day I just snuck in and stayed in and watched these dudes practice and do their things. And I'm like, man, I can do this.
Yeah.
I can do this.
Yeah. And I remember us being in junior high school together at Crozier in middle school, and playing against you guys, and then having a chance to come over and actually go to school with you guys was impacting in relationship. I mean, we always had a relationship, but coming over to spend my last semester of junior high school with you guys, Brian Browning, Dean Smith,
Cowboy,
no question. That was really impressive to me, because you guys always embraced me as a brother, but being there with you was a whole different element, because all of our relationships just blossomed.
Right.
Now, you were so fresh as a 7th grader. You had great size, you were tall. But really in the 7th grade, you were just kind of getting started.
Yeah, just getting introduced to the game, learning the fundamentals, learning this and that.
Yeah. And you got a chance to play with a outstanding player at the time, LaVar Jenkins, rest in peace.
Rest in peace, shout out, yeah.
And then you played with him as well at Rogers Park.
Right.
I'll never forget that game where he scored
59. We had a total of 61 points, ladies and gentlemen. He scored 59, and your boy scored 2.
I think that was the beginning of something great, because really after that, it was on for DH. It was when we got into 8th grade.
Right.
I don't know what happened. What happened during that summer and that spring and summer going into the 8th grade, because at that point you was like you was unstoppable.
Right,
I mean,
man.
I think that was impressive, because when you came back, we was like, is this the same dude?
I guess I just felt, I guess I felt like a truck that day, playing with LeVar. I mean, this guy was so advanced in his era that, that 57, it was like, man, who's dropping 57 in the 7th and 8th grade? I was like, man, never again. I got to come back. I got to come back, like a beast.
Yeah, and you did. You did. I mean, you were always top 3 in scoring in that league, the Rogers Park League. It was flooded with players. Right. Nate Pumphrey. We had
AKA Leland, AKA Pookie Wigginton.
Yeah, we had some star-studded guys. Right. Mark Hammock was a young guy and was always top 5 in scoring. Man. People don't realize how good Mark Hammock was. And I got a chance to play with him in high school.
Man.
So Mark Hammock was a special talent, So, I mean, your body of work in middle school was very unusual too, because they were letting you play. Tell us about the open run at Rogers Park.
Oh, wow.
And they were letting you play with these grown men.
Yeah, well, I was playing with grown men in the 8th grade at Rogers Park. So people would get down to the gym 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning just to get on the floor, but would never get on. So one day they were short. They called me on, hey, can you come out and play with us? I came out there and played. I did my thing, scored a couple buckets, and my confidence level grew. Like, man, I can do this.
Yeah.
I can do this.
Yeah, and that was, to me, we knew at that point how special you were, because you had good size in middle school anyway, but you were actually playing and competing with the Jason Works, the Barry Walkers, Brian Kirkland, Lewski.
Right.
Ski. A lot of people didn't really realize Ski could actually play basketball, and he loved basketball. Right. Shout out to Lewski.
Louis Carr,
always
train.
Inglewood, 77.
Check the yearbook.
No question. So watching you and me being with you all the time and waiting for us to get on. See, because you were playing with the men, and then later on when they were finished, then you played with us, and it was almost like, man, like, this is a grown man. I mean, we was having fun, but it's like, we looking at you because it's like, man, this dude has arrived. He just got through playing with these men, but really you elevated our play. And not to, so much fast forward to high school, because we're going to get into that, but watching you play in middle school and how quickly you advanced and how physically gifted you were. And people didn't realize, you played below the rim, but you could play above the rim, but your finesse and your ability to score in traffic was uncanny. Right. Because we knew how well you could jump, but you played beneath the rim. You had these sweet finger rolls, and you would lay the ball up with finesse, or you would finish with contact. And we like, is this because he's playing with these men? Right. Or is this just him evolving? And I believe it was both. It was both. Right. So now that we get in high school, you don't play freshman.
I play JV. JV.
Right. So
I could have played varsity, but they told me I would have been sitting on the bench.
Right.
Who wants to sit on the bench as a 9th grader when I can just go down to JV as a 9th grader and just show what I got? That's what I did. Played JV in the night.
Right. So you and Nate Pumphrey were so advanced, because I got a chance to play with Nate at Monroe.
Right.
So we knew how good he was. Eventually, he stopped playing around the 10th grade. He just kind of got into other things. But I'm talking about how you impacted our game playing with older guys, and then getting that opportunity to play varsity as a junior, and just, you ran through the league. Man. It was, every time they mentioned Inglewood High, it was Pat Roy. From the political standpoint.
Shout out my boy P. Roy.
Yeah. But what you guys were doing together, it was like, this guy DH is the common denominator. This guy he can kill you at any point. He can get hot, or he can just flat out score.
Right.
So, I mean, what was that like playing with Pat Roy and playing at Inglewood High? What was your experience like?
Oh, man, I love my experience at Inglewood, man. It was like no other, man. It was like Inglewood. If you're not from Inglewood, you guys really don't know. Everybody is like family.
Yeah.
Morningside, Crozier, Monroe, it's all wood. We're like family. So, man, I mean, I wish I could do that experience again, man. It was lovely.
Now, what about what was some of the players, older players that may have anybody influenced your game?
Ooh, a lot of people don't remember my boy, man. Ernie Sears, man. He was one of the first dudes to come out of Inglewood to go to Cal Berkeley. You probably remember Kevin Johnson. That's who they was selling that year. But yeah, Ernie Sears was right up there with him, man.
Yeah,
I used to look at him like, man, this dude is real.
He was a great athlete.
This dude is real.
Yeah, he was. He was very, very aggressive.
Man.
Great athlete.
Right.
Great athlete. What about D. Shell?
Danny Shell, oh my God, man. Now y'all thought I had a wet jumper. You have to see your boy D. Shell, man. Yeah. I mean, when he shot the jumper, he left that hand up for you, so you can see it. Danny Shell, man. Shout out to D. Shell.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah.
Man.
No question.
Never hit the rim. Never hit the rim when I saw him shoot a jumper, ladies and gentlemen.
A lot of people don't know this that are not from Inglewood, but we know this as a fact. Jason Works was so remarkable of a scorer and talent that we saw. I was fortunate enough to sit under the tutelage of Barry Walker and Stan Walker. Marvin as well, but those two, Stan and Barry, were the ones that really helped me and Pookie understand, what high school basketball was all about. These guys are like phenomenal. So now that we're on this side with, the Jason Works and some of the notable guys that was coming to Rogers Park, you were a part of a fraternity of Ralph Jackson, Jay Humphreys, of course, Angelo, Russell Brown.
Yeah.
So from that Inglewood standpoint, you came into your era and you had a couple of followers. A lot of people don't know Harold Miner really based his game around what he saw in your game. Right, remember how he would puppy trail us to different gyms
with that ball, in his hands. Every time we go, he was right there with us. Shout out H Miner.
Yeah, so tell us some of your experiences about the Drew League. When did you start playing in the Drew?
I started playing in the Drew in 1984. Shout out my boy Keith Young. You remember Keith Young, coach over there at Fremont?
Yeah.
We were playing in different leagues throughout LA, and he comes to me like, "Hey H, we're gonna put a team in the Drew League. It's just about to start back up in '84. I mean, this is one of the realest leagues, and that's how I got introduced to the Drew League. 1984. Keith Young brought me to the arena.
Yeah.
Won that first championship in '84. Still got the trophy at Mom's house, and that's where it really started. 1984.
Right. Okay. The transformation from high school, because we were still in high school, so the transformation from high school to the Drew League really was synonymous with your playing middle school with grown guys. See, the thing that made it so tough with you was you were always a competitor. You never backed down. You never had doubt. No matter who was on the floor, you always felt and you played like you were the best player on the floor. And to me, that doesn't translate with today's players, especially on the high school level.
Right.
I mean, isn't that unusual? Everybody's on the buddy system.
Very unusual. Very unusual. Everybody wants to get everything handed to them and not work for that.
Right.
You got to work for that. You got to work on your game.
Right. Now, seeing a young Harold Miner and knowing that he had this limitless talent, why do you think, from your perspective, because you saw him early, we watched this dude with these big feet, because you used to always say, man, this dude might be 6'9", because he had those big feet as a 7th grader, and he only grew to be like maybe 6'3" and a half, 6'4".
Yeah.
Why do you think his career went the way it went?
Well, I think people labeled him as a dunker. And that's all you really saw of Hermano. Every time you saw a highlight, he was dunking.
Yeah.
He was dunking, but he had much more to that.
Yeah.
I mean, he averaged like a 23 piece when he was at SC. You don't just do that on dunks.
Yeah, that's true.
That's jumpers,
to the rack,
finishing around the rim, everything.
Free throw line, knowing how to get to the free throw line. I also realized too that you played against one of the greatest basketball players to ever come out of California, not just Southern Cal.
Right.
Period. This guy was one of the greatest basketball players to ever come out of high school. Who is that, and what was it like playing against him?
That's Big John Williams, man. Shout out to Big John, Crenshaw Cougar. I met Big John in 1983, 84. Just by word of mouth. I was living in L.A. Around the corner from Fremont. I used to ride the Florence bus to school. And back then, L.A. Wave was the paper. The L.A. Wave was the paper. You grab that paper every Thursday, and you look in there, and all I would see is this John Williams killing. I'm like, man, who is John Williams? Finally got a chance to meet him in the Tournament of Champions out there in San Dimas. And you
went to work.
Went to work, met him, and I introduced myself. Hey, Big John, it's a pleasure to meet you. I've been hearing about you, big fella. Blah, 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 blah. We went out there and got blue, but I served him for a 25 piece. But that 25 piece, it was early in the game.
Right.
But once they figured us out, it was a wrap.
Yeah.
But man.
Yeah. John, I didn't get a chance to, play against him because Morningside wasn't playing Crenshaw because of the gang situation. However, watching him and of course hearing about his name, but then getting a chance to watch him, because I believe Pookie had a chance to play AAU with him or a part of that culture. So seeing this guy at that level to be so advanced and so humble, this guy had this crazy humility. When he was our LeBron.
Right.
He was literally our LeBron of our day, but he was such a humble guy. And to know, I remember when y'all went to play now. We was looking in the paper the next day. DG and everybody was like, man, they go, these dudes go, they go run away with this.
Right.
But to see what you did against these giants really let us. We already knew what you had. But it solidified and made us feel good knowing that one of our brothers went up against these giants and represented so well. Tell me about some guys that you played against, whether it was in camp or whether it was just in your league or whatever, that you felt had pro potential. And did you ever feel like you had pro potential?
Oh, yeah. I always felt like I had pro potential because I was playing with pros, 8th, 9th, 10th grade. So I already had that mentality. I can do this. I'm a pro.
Yeah, you did. Was there anybody local that, you went up against that, you walked away and said, you know what, that dude's a pro,
Man, a lot of people may not know this guy, man, but his name is John Staggers. His name was John Staggers, y'all.
Yeah.
Crenshaw.
By way of Inglewood.
By way of Inglewood. And oh my goodness, man. You would just have to look. You guys would have to just see John Staggers. It was 30 every night out.
Yeah. It
was 30 night. It was a 30 piece every night.
Yeah.
And
effortless.
And every night. And he was so real with his game that he came off the bench at Crenshaw and still won All City. Still was All City Player of the Year off the bench.
Yeah.
That's how real he was. So when I saw him, I'm like, this guy, he can do it.
Yeah.
He can do it.
Yeah. It was so much talent in our era. Who stands out also for me? Of course, a lot of people, feel like I'm biased and I'm always lean that way. Byron Scott was phenomenal. Barry Walker was phenomenal. These two guys were phenomenal.
These were real shooting guards back in the day, ladies and gentlemen.
And then I look at Dwayne Polee.
Ooh.
He was just, when you look at his size, you didn't think that he was the terror he was.
He's 6'6" dudes that was really dribbling the ball like him, like a real point.
Like a real point
man. At 6'6", though, you was really as a forward at 6'6". You
Right.
was a center at 6'6".
Right,
But
right.
he was a straight PG,
Right.
2-guard, everything.
Right. And so to me, what helped me really understand, I mean, size matters. So, I mean, I didn't never look at, my potential to be, one of those guys who would one day play in the NBA or anything. I was more of a football player.
Right.
So, I mean, but seeing how we played against these guys and watching your progression, I knew the confidence that you had. You were already competing against these caliber guys. Therefore, we knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that guy is going to come to play no matter what. And that's, to me, that's what separated you from our pack. There was other guys with great talent,
Right.
but the package you brought to the table was you competed, you already had this crazy skill, and then your confidence to be the best player, to me,
Right.
that was the pro in you.
Right.
Because a lot of guys didn't think that way.
Right.
No matter who was on it was an all-star game, it didn't matter. We was playing pickup, that was your mentality, and that's what you displayed. And I was in awe of it because I got a chance to play with you early in junior high.
Right.
And the way you pushed me and motivated me made me always want to be at my A game, because that was the competitor in you. They was like, man, he always on you, or he always. I said, it ain't personal.
Never.
And he would always let you know, check it out. It ain't personal. If you can't get this done, you need to sit over there. You need to sit over there.
Right.
And they was like some guys couldn't play
Couldn't
with you.
handle that, right.
But I could, because number one, I had this great respect for you, and number two, I already knew where you were coming from. You wanted to win, and you wanted to lead, and to me, that's what leaders do.
Right.
Like LeVar Ball. A lot of people, they hate on him. Hey man, that dude's a leader.
That dude was a leader.
That dude was a leader.
Right.
And he believed in his craft. He believed in what he did, and look at his sons.
Man.
So, I want to get to this because this guy became a great influence to you, and he became a great help to me because his knowledge of the game. What does Dane Suttle mean to you?
Oh man, shout out Dane Suttle, man, OG legend out of LA, Fremont. He meant so much to me, man. I mean, he played at that highest level of the pros. He was all-time leading scorer at Pepperdine up until a couple of years ago, but man, he was just a mentor, man. Showed me how to walk these steps, what to do, what not to do. Off the court too. It wasn't just basically on the court; it was off the court too, though.
Yeah. I was able to get a glimpse of that through you, because you were playing with him in the Drew, and you had already known him, and seeing him, play at that Drew league. And talk that talk, but he walked the walk too. He talked the talk, he walked the walk. Is that something you wanted to transfer when Kenny Bruner came into your life? Because we went to see Kenny together, and when we went to see him, he was so dynamic. Man, as a ninth grader, I had never seen a kid that dynamic. The way he was, and to be so small, but
controlling the game.
Yeah, he made you stand up the whole time he was playing, but he gravitated to you. He wanted something that he knew he could add to his game, and I believe it was that confidence.
Right.
It was that
attitude.
That tenacity. Tell us something about Kenny that maybe a lot of people don't know about his ability or his competitiveness, that you believe you were able to, give something to enhance his game.
Yeah. Kenny Bruner, man. Shout out to KB, Australia's finest. Man, when we like Hoop said, when we first met KB, it was ninth grade at an Inglewood game, Dominguez and Inglewood. Who was the point guard for Inglewood that day? It was
Sam Turks.
Shout out Sam Turks. Sam Turks was a junior or a senior that year, and KB was a freshman. And like Sam Turks was everything too.
Yeah.
KB came up in there, man, and ate his lunch.
Yeah.
Ate his lunch, man. But I think that confidence, I gave that confidence to KB, man.
Yeah.
And once he took that confidence, it was over.
Yeah.
It was over because he was already a winner when we first saw him.
Yeah. Very, very, very unique. And when I would watch him, and I remember you telling me, we went to see him a second time. They was at Dominguez.
Right.
And I was critical of him. I kept saying, man, he turning the ball over. And man, this dude is, man, you know, this, and you kept saying, who? He a baby. He in the 9th grade. And I kept saying, but yeah, man, he playing point and he got to do this and that. And you said, who? He in the 9th grade. This dude is playing against
12th, 11th grade.
He in the 9th grade. And that's when I had to understand what he did have, you couldn't teach.
Right.
And then I looked at his competitiveness and the way he attacked the game. And I saw myself in him because of the way he attacked the game. We had a different game, but his aggressiveness
was always on.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
Guards were scared to bring it up. They heard we playing Kenny Bruner, man. They would come out. They would call in sick. I sprained my ankle on the layup line. They'd do anything not to see this beast, man.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah. I think Barron was the only consistent one.
Yeah.
Jason Hart, too.
Baby J, shout out Baby J and BD.
They had that same. I'm gonna run through a wall. You're gonna have to kill me out here. Jason Hart, Baron Davis were Lil Bean. Bean didn't say much.
Yeah, shout out
but
to Bean
these
too.
3 guys was like, you're gonna have to kill me out here because I'm here to stay. And that's what made the competition even greater.
And them
because
all those 4 guards, didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
all those 4 guards, man, they had something. They were all winners, number one. They were all competitors, but all 4 of them brought something different to the game.
Mm-hmm.
So you can rock with either one of those 4. You was guaranteed a W.
Exactly. Now, as we wind down, I want to ask you this: if when you sit back and watch the NBA or the collegiate and even the high school games, I'll just say pre-COVID because COVID is a little changed everything. We don't get to see people live anymore. But what would you say is really missing in this generation of basketball versus what is better than our era? What's missing in this generation, and then what's better in this generation from our era?
Well, what's missing in this generation is fundamentals. Guys don't really work on fundamentals anymore.
Okay.
No disrespect to Steph Curry, but he kind of like changed the game, so everybody out here think they can shoot threes now. I mean, everybody. I mean, from the big man to everybody. Just think you can shoot threes. So I say, do what you do best. If you're a rebounder, rebound. Yeah. Fundamentals is what's killing this era right now. It's fundamentals.
Okay. So in our era, what you think we lacked that they have?
Well, I would say,
did we lack it?
Well, I would say in our era, I like to call it the train tracks. Once you fell off the train track, it was kind of really hard to get back on that train track. Meaning that if you did something off the court, it would be kind of hard for us to get back on that track. Okay. Now in this era, you fall off the track, they're gonna put you right back on immediately, right back on.
More chances, more opportunities to get back.
Yeah.
Whereas you're right, when we were coming along, if you fell off bad enough, you was done. And we saw that. We saw a lot of dudes give up the sport after the 9th grade.
Right.
10th grade, something happened and they was done. They never went back to it. They either started working or they got in the streets or whatever, but it changed their life.
Yeah.
Whereas now, today, you're right, it's like if you were a talent and a notable name, they coming after you. They find out that you failed, somebody say, oh, I'll take them.
Right.
And also, to add to that, you're right, I agree with you 101%. Also, these guys they have so many more resources.
Right.
Trainer.
Everything.
Equipment.
Everything.
We didn't have weightlifting and, back when we played.
We had to do that on our own or watch, some individuals do it and be like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, I'm getting stronger.
Exactly.
Right.
And then remember the myth when we were coming along, they said basketball players shouldn't lift weights.
Right.
It'll throw your shot off. And that was all wrong. Because, it didn't throw your shot off because after the swelling go down, you're right back on.
Right, you're right back on.
Because after you shoot, anyway, you're going to stretch out.
Right.
But the crazy thing is, I think today the kids need to hear your voice. They need to hear the voices of the Dwayne Polies, the Mark Wades.
Ooh.
You know, I watched Mark Wade, though he's only 2 years older than us.
Yeah.
Pookie is the one. See, what people don't understand is
There's so many
Pookie
legends
Wigginton
out here,
exposed me to 98% of basketball. Now, I spent 98% of basketball with you.
Right.
But Pookie was one of those guys as well. But he took me to see the names that I heard about, read about, you know, and that was remarkable because I'm like, how does he know all this? Well, he was in love with the game. So he was a student of the game. You and I had the work ethic, so we went everywhere and played everywhere. But just like Pookie exposed me, so did Ice Cream.
Oh,
remember how he brought us?
Man, shout out Keith Harris, man, Samuel High.
Big Brian,
man.
You know what I'm saying?
Man.
Brian Johnson, you know what I mean?
What was the point guard name for Samuel?
Oh, Carlton Davenport.
Yeah, shout out to Carlton Davenport, man. Hook.
My
AKA,
man, my man. And then, you know, Carrick was from Inglewood.
Man.
You know, Doc. You know, these were,
Right.
you know, and what I learned was everywhere we went, you know, we would play 4 and 5 different places in one day. Now I'm gonna be honest with you. Other than Pookie, them dudes from Morningside wasn't playing like that.
Right.
They weren't.
Right. We was hitting Memorial Park. We was hitting Westchester High, the small gym, not the big gym, the small gym. Yeah. You take one shot, you take this one dribble, you over half court. Right. Ball going up. Yeah.
Right. So I'm thankful because, you know, Ice Cream exposed us to the West Side.
Right.
You know, Jason Matthews.
Yes.
You know,
Pitt's finest.
Yeah, Lil Coop, Earl Duncan, and these guys. Even, you know, we would see Stevie Thompson in these areas because he was also a gym rat. He worked like a heathen. You know what I mean? So that's what I miss about that era, as opposed to meeting kids today. They don't have that kind of hunger and interest. They won't even sit down and watch film. They might watch some of the game, but they're not even, and they're only watching certain players to learn certain moves. But then they wonder why the Kobe's were great.
Man.
Kobe watched everybody. You know, and so, you know, so the great thing, man, is I wanted to get you in here, and I'm going to get you back because there's some other guys that I want to sit down in the room with you, and we can chop it up. But just knowing your plight and knowing what you experienced as a player and to score at that level, because as you got older, people almost forgot how great of a shooter you were because it was so easy and natural for you to get to the basket. But you always could get to the basket. We always understood that this guy can score from anywhere on the court, but your jumper was so pure to where I know we at Morningside, we wanted to make you drive. We rather deal with you going to the basket than sit. Exactly. And so I saw how that translated as we got older because you wasn't overexerting yourself. You knew you always knew, but you picked your spots where you wanted to be effective, and to see you do that helped me understand that you were always on a different mental plane, especially when it came to scoring the ball. See, and today these dudes, they don't know how to do that.
See, I'm gonna go back to another point where you said we studied the game, we watched the game. Now, when we were coming up as YGs, youngsters in this game, the Big East was the shit. We would come from practice, come from home, go home, turn on the TV, watch the Big East. I mean, the Big East was it was it.
Goodness. The Pearl, that was my guy.
Man, that was my guy. Sherm Douglas was my guy. This is where I got the teardrop at. I learned, I brought the teardrop into my game.
Okay.
Because watching Sherm Douglas do that in the Big East, he was a little guy. So when he would come down to the cup, he would have to teardrop that thing. Because if not, Pat Ewing was putting it back over here the other way.
That's true.
So, you know, once I got that teardrop.
I never knew that. Because you always had a cold finger on it.
I studied Sherm Douglas and his teardrop.
I got you.
And then that's where the teardrop came in when I went to the Drew. I would go baseline and show you to you, and then I just put it up and you'll try to go get it, but you ain't getting that.
And that's how I learned my spin.
Right.
from left to right,
Right.
and from right to left. And that's where I learned my crossover from right to left.
Right.
Because most guys was crossing over from left to right,
Right.
because the right was they strong, they was ready to drive. But I watched the pearl.
Right.
And so me and Mark Hammett is the one that turned me on to the pearl back in 82.
Again,
82,
a
83.
6'6" guy, man, had handles like a point guard.
That was my man.
Man, Mark
he
Hammett.
really was a point.
He was a point
He
guard.
started growing.
Right.
So he was a point guard all his life,
Right.
and that's why he was so natural.
With
But
the
he
ball.
never left his handle.
Yeah,
He
right.
never lost his
Man.
handle. So me and Mark honed our skills together because we were little guys together,
right.
and we always played in the backcourt,
yeah.
right? So the crazy thing is, a lot of people didn't know this, but I was on the second team my senior year at Morningside before I eventually won my spot,
Right.
which it happened to be the last game of my career because I was pronounced ineligible right when league started, right? So I won the job back against Boobie from Washington.
Yeah, I remember Boobie.
Boobie Purry.
Shout out to, yeah.
So Boobie Perry was so cold, and I like to just say he didn't have a good game against us because he was leading the league in scoring.
Right.
So we already knew he was a top scorer in the city at that time. And when I played against him, he only had 8 points.
Right.
So I got a lot of the credit, but I know he didn't play well because how do you stop a score?
Right.
I mean, I was a defensive guy,
Right.
but you don't stop a score because they're gonna find a way to get it from the line or something.
He had so many dudes.
Yeah, I mean,
man.
this dude, and people asked me one day on Facebook a long time ago, they said, well, who was one of the toughest guys you played against? I said, well, first of all, DH and a guy from Washington, Boobie Purry. He was phenomenal.
He was Pearl in high school.
Ooh.
He was Pearl in high school. If you don't know who
size.
Pearl Washington is, you guys Google him up. Boobie was a Pearl back in high school at Washington high school days. I mean, come on, man, 6'3", 6'2", wide, handles, shoot, score.
Great shot.
I mean, get to the cup on,
Oh, he
play
was
D.
tough.
I mean, whatever you wanted to do.
He was tough. Yeah. And so that was a great eye opener for me. The contest between us and Washington was always great. They weren't afraid. They came over with a chip. We went over there. It was just always great competition. Will Alexander,
Dexter Bass.
Dexter. They had another guy. They called him Sandman. I can't remember.
I forget his name.
I can't remember his
I
real
know who you're
name.
talking about,
Cold.
Yeah.
Small forward. But man, I'm just grateful to have you in the studio.
Thanks
and
for having me.
Yeah, no problem. We're gonna bring you back, and we're gonna surround you with some other guys that I really believe people need to know.
Man, need to know.
But the history behind your game and seeing you progress to that point was it was remarkable. I got a chance to be at the front row and sit in the front because you my guy. So I was there, when you was doing the working out. I was there when you was playing and things of that nature. And I just really want to say thanks for your contribution. And thanks for sitting down with us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So this is DH, buckets, scoring phenomenon that we were able to, grow up together and be the best of friends and just experience all kind of stuff in life, off the court, on the court. And, this last thing I want to say is I used to catch a lot of flack for being partners with these brothers from Inglewood High, but that's what they were and they are to me. Derick, Huey, Brian Brown, and Dean Pruitt, we were tight. We were like, this was a brotherhood, and I didn't mind, catching the flack from my brothers, at Morningside, but they came to know and understand that if I'm messing with them, they solid. Right. And then that consummated a great friendship with other guys that we were competing against because that was our culture.
Right.
We competed
competed
when we played, but after that, we was
laughing,
brothers.
Yeah, we
you
was
know?
laughing, giggling, and doing all that.
Yeah. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Everybody that's watching and following us on our social media platforms, thank you so much. Please like, share, subscribe, and continue to look for us as we give out some important information and introduce some wonderful talent, that's local, Los Angeles, Southern Cal, even Northern Cal. We have some things on our agenda that we're trying to put together. And so, peace and love. We'll talk to you soon.